pathogenesis, and prevention. And because we are experiencing the coronavirus pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, and during this lecture, we'll also talk about the COVID-19, the coronavirus, and we'll relate what we are talking in our PPT with COVID-19. First, we'll talk about the modes of transmission of viruses. Well, generally, there are two different modes. One is horizontal transmission, the other is vertical transmission. The horizontal transmission is the transmission of the virus from one person to another. And these two persons, they are not in a parent-child relationship. For example, some stranger or some friend, family member, but not parent-child relationship. This transmission is horizontal transmission. And the way for transmission is quite different. For example, there might be some direct contact, like touch, or sexual contact, or blood transfusion, or transfusion of other body fluids, or air, like respiration, or the virus is in the food, water, or if we ingest those food or water, it can infect another person. Or it might be like insects carried. For example, the virus can be transmitted through mosquitoes. So this is a horizontal transmission. For vertical transmission, it means the direct transfer of a virus from mother to her offsprings. That's from a mother to her child. Either transmission through the placenta. Some virus can cross placenta and infect the child, the baby. For example, the Zika virus, what happened several years ago in South America. And that Zika virus can cross the placenta and infect the fetus. Or during the childbirth, the newborn might be infected. Or through the breastfeeding, some virus can get into the breast milk. So when a mom gives breastfeeding, the virus can infect the child. So this is a vertical transmission. And for the coronavirus, we know it's horizontal transmission. It's debatable whether there is some vertical transmission, because there is some cases, some reports that some newborn are infected. They worry that there might be some vertical transmission from the mom to the baby. But now we don't have strong evidence to support this hypothesis. That these isolated cases might be due to other reasons. For example, the baby is infected after born rather than before they are born. Okay, there's different modes of transmission. And this is a general procedure for a virus to infect a host. First, the virus need to enter the host. You know, if it stays outside, that's okay, but it has to enter the host. Then after it enters the host, it has to come in contact with those susceptible cells. And we know that a virus needs to infect certain type of cells. And on that cell, there must be some receptor to recognize the virus so that the virus can absorb to the cell surface to start infection. So those cells, we call them susceptible cells. And then the virus will replicate and produce cell injury and cause disease. So this is a general procedure for the viral infection pathogenesis. Most viruses enter their host through either skin or the respiratory tract or intestinal tract or genital tract, which are containing mucosal membrane. And some viruses might be introduced directly into the bloodstream by needles. For example, like HBV, hepatitis B virus, HIV, or by blood transfusion accidentally, or by insect vectors such as the mosquitoes. And this is many viruses can produce disease at sites kind of distant from their point of entry. So that's the HBV example. And the most common route is via the bloodstream or lymphatic system for the virus to spread. And sometimes neurons are also involved. So the virus prefer the neuron, they get into the neuron. And you know that our neurons are kind of a special cell. They have long fibers so that the virus can hide in the fiber and travel fast to other parts of the body. And if the virus spreads in the bloodstream, and you will have viral particles in the bloodstream. And this phenomenon we call it viremia. So that is the presence of virus in the bloodstream, viremia. And due to the specificity, due to the virus recognition by its receptor, so usually the virus infection will exhibit some organ and cell specificity. Only some certain type of cell and organ can be infected, while other parts of the body is safe. So this is because the property of virus infection. Okay, so this is the first pathogenesis. And you want to know what will happen if the virus can infect the host cells. What can it cause? The first effect is the cytocidal effect. So that is the production of new infectious virus can kill the host cell, especially for those non-enveloped virus. They replicate to form large number of new viral particles in the host cell. And finally, the host cell is lysed. So viral particles will be released into the host body to infect more cells. So this is a cytocidal effect. The infected cell is killed. Another effect is the virus can set up steady state infection. Usually it happens to the enveloped virus. So the virus or its genome can reside in some of or all of the cells without killing most of them. So this is a steady state. A third one is transformation. You know, we learned transformation before. So that is, you change the behavior, you transform one type of the cell to another. You change the behavior of the cell. So that happens during when some viral infection. The virus enters the host cell and change something in a cell so that the cell won't die. So it convert a normal cell into a cancer cell. This is transformation. For example, during the HPV infection, it can cause cancer. Okay, so this is an example of cytopathic effect, short for CPE. And you can see in panel A, that's a normal cell. It looks healthy and can form monolayer. But once the cell is infected by some virus, excuse me, this time these cells are infected by HSV1, unhappy, and their morphology changed. They are detaching from the surface and they are dying. So this is a cytopathic effect. On the host level, on the body level, the viral infection can elicit different results. Some infection is inapparent. Inapparent means that there is no obvious clinical symptoms. So from outside, you have a patient coming in. You cannot tell the symptoms. They look normal. This is inapparent infection. Or it can cause apparent infection. Apparent infection means the symptoms can be easily observed. You can tell the symptoms. You can tell that that person, something is wrong with that person, and you need further diagnose that patient. For the apparent infection, it can be acute infection. So the acute infection means the onset of the disease is quick. The incubation period is very short. So this we call acute infection. And it might be persistent infections. For persistent infection, it can be in different ways. It might be a chronic infection. So this chronic infection means the patient is carrying the virus for a long time. And it can cause disease for a long time. Or the infection is latent. Latent means the virus can be quiescent, can keep quiet in our body for a long time, even decades. We got some infection when we were little kids, and then we carry the virus with us all lifelong. And when we are getting old, the virus in our body might cause another infection. That's the latent infection. Or slow virus infection. Slow virus infection means that the virus will increase slowly in our body. And for a long time, it doesn't cause disease, doesn't cause any symptoms. But at some point, when the viral load is high enough, it can cause disease. Okay, this slide explains the chronic infection. So the virus can be continuously detected in our body, but they only show mild or no evident clinical symptoms. This is chronic infection. For example, HBV infection. After infection, it can cause disease for some period. Then after that, the patient look like they recovered, but they still have the virus in their body, and the virus can still be detected, and they can transfer the virus to others. This is the HBV chronic infection. For latent infection, one example is varicella zoster infection. It got two names. The virus got two names, either varicella virus or zoster virus. But actually, there is only one virus there, but it can cause different symptoms. When we are young, for the little kids, the virus infection, that's the first infection, can cause symptoms on the skin to form these pox, different sizes of pox all over the body. So that's the first disease episode. So that's a varicella forming pox. And after that, the virus become undetectable because the virus is hidden in neurons. and we cannot detect the virus directly. And the virus can stay with us for a long time. This can be several decades, 50 years, 60 years, it's possible. Then when we are getting old, our immune system is not strong enough. The virus might infect us from inside, from neurons, then to our skin. And this time, it caused a disease called zoster. It's a line. That's a zoster line. And this is the second episode of disease. And this zoster is very painful. The good news is that we now have vaccines to fight against both varicella and zoster. We give the little kids some vaccine to prevent infection. We can also give some vaccine to elder people, like your grandparents, your parents. So give them the zoster vaccine so that you can reduce the chance of zoster, or you can reduce the symptoms of zoster. It's a latent infection. Another one is slow virus infection. Slow virus infection means that after exposure here, the viral load or viral titer will increase very slowly. It takes a long time to increase. And finally, when the viral load is high enough, it can elicit some disease episode. Okay, so this is a slow virus infection. Okay, so basically that's what we want to cover on any single virus infection. And with the rest of the time, we'll talk about some measures to control virus. This is not on a medical point of view. This is on a big picture, like for the whole society, for the whole country, or for the whole world. How can we control viruses? There are different measures we can take, including quarantine to insect controls. We can introduce this one by one. And when we talk about these different points, we can think about the coronavirus, think about COVID-19. First one is quarantine. Quarantine is not a new method. It's an old method. People used it hundreds of years ago, or even 1,000 years ago. And from the word quarter, you can see that this word is related to 4 or 40. Quarantine at the very beginning means that you isolate a sheep for 40 days. So that means quarantine. That's the initial meaning of this word. So that was happened like hundreds of years ago in Europe, close to Mediterranean Sea. At that time, the Black Death is a big threat. And during each pandemic of Black Death, a lot of people of the population is killed. About 1/3 of the whole population was killed. And people realized that the Black Death was transmitted through the commercial ships. So those ships come from one country to another, then to another. So they realized that something is carried on the ship caused the Black Death. So this created the quarantine method. If a ship came to my harbor, we just leave the ship on sea for 40 days. And if after 40 days, people on the ship was healthy, they are allowed to enter the country for trade. So that is the very beginning of quarantine. And now we can also use this for quarantine. If you can identify some infected persons, you just separate them from the population so that they won't spread the germ, they won't spread the virus to others. And this happened for the pandemic, the COVID-19. If there is some positive patient, if they are infected, we should quarantine them either in a hospital or in some hotel so that they are away from other people. A second method is import control. So this usually means animal products. We control the imports so that viruses from other countries won't get into your own country. The example here is the African swine fever, which is caused by a DNA virus. And every country is taking measures to control, to block the virus entering the country. And it works for some time, but now we have that virus in China. That's about several decades later after its discovery. Okay, the next point is notification. Notification means that we should have a system. It's a whole system to collect the information, to collect data from hospital, from the front line. If there is some virus spreading, if there is some infection, we should report this information in the system so that this information can be collected, analyzed, and used. And we should report this information to other countries. We should report the information to international organizations, including like WHO, so the World Health Organization. So this way, all the countries will work together to fight against a virus infection. And during this pandemic, we actually are working together, and at least for some extent. And I think every country is doing their best and also working with WHO to fight against the pandemic. The next one is slaughter. This happens to the infected animal or herd. So animal, chickens, pigs, if they are infected, we should slaughter those animals so that we can remove the infection source. And after that, we should decontaminate the area of possible infection. So you should clean out any possible virus in that environment. And also isolation. This means avoid multiple close contact, such as in crowded housing. So during the pandemic, you want to stay home. You don't want to go to the crowded area with other people, because in those crowds, there might be some infectious source. So this is isolation. And if there is some village with infected cases, we should isolate the village so that the germ, the virus, won't spread out to other people outside the village. It's isolation. And also treatment. Well, as we mentioned, for most virus infection, treatment is not the best way. Even though for the patient, we should give them patient, but for control of the whole society, the whole population, treatment is not easy. First, we don't have enough medicine. Those medicines are not specific for viral infection. We can only give them some supporting treatment. Or for some virus, we can give them a cocktail like HIV infection to inhibit the viral replication, but we cannot cure the HIV infection. The other reason is that during a pandemic, the medical sources is always limited. We don't have a lot of hospitals. We don't have a lot of beds in hospitals. We cannot accommodate all the patients in the hospital for treatment. So that's a big challenge. And the best way for against viral infection is vaccination. If there is some vaccine available, a simple shot of the vaccine can prevent further infection. That's the best way and the most efficient way and the most low-cost way to prevent virus infection. Good news is that we have vaccines coming out, and there are 2 vaccines approved in America. Both of them are mRNA vaccine, and this mRNA vaccine technology is a new and revolutionary technique. Hopefully, this can get them some Nobel Prize. And there is another vaccine which should be come out soon, earlier next year in America. That is the one prepared by Johnson and Johnson. And in China, there are several vaccines on clinical trial, phase 3. And I heard that in a couple of days, they will release the information. And those vaccines should be okay, should be safe and efficient, even though we don't know the efficacy number at this moment. Hopefully, they can provide some protection. And in other countries, there are also some vaccines against coronavirus under development. Hopefully, by early next year, we'll have more vaccines to use so that finally everyone in the world will get some vaccine and will get over the pandemic as soon as possible. So that's the vaccine. And the last point is insect control. So that's the some virus transmitted by insects like mosquitoes. We can control the insects to control the viral transmission. For example, during the transmission, during the outbreak of Zika virus, and we know that they are transmitted through mosquitoes, we can kill the mosquitoes with the control of virus, including this point. First, the poor infrastructure. This happens especially in developing countries, in the undeveloped area. Because in those areas, people are so poor and the governments are so poor. They don't have enough equipment, they don't have enough hospitals to take care of everyone. And they don't even have enough money to buy vaccines. So that's a problem. Even though there is vaccine available, they cannot afford for the vaccine. That's due to the poor infrastructure. So that is also the reason why there is WHO, the World Health Organization. Some time ago, the rich countries realized that to fight against infectious disease, it's everyone's job in the world. They cannot control the infectious disease only within their country. They can only succeed if they can fight against infectious disease all over the world. So that is why they formed WHO and provide money to the organization to help the poor countries to fight against infectious disease. Another reason is the global transport. Now with jet planes, people can travel to any place in the world within several hours. So that means that the virus can be carried all over the world and can be transmitted all over the world. This is a global transport, accelerating the speed of viral transmission. A third one is mutation. Some viruses can mutate very fast. And even though you try to design some vaccine based on their sequence you know previously, but after you design the vaccine, the virus mutated to another one. So your vaccine will lose its target. It doesn't work anymore. And we heard about the new mutation discovered in UK recently. They found some mutation in coronavirus, and they found that mutation, and they found that the mutant virus is more infectious, and that mutant strain is now dominating the cases discovered there. It means that that new strain is more infectious. But at this moment, we don't know whether the vaccine will work against the new mutant or whether the new mutant is more dangerous anymore. It's more infectious, but it doesn't mean that the new mutant is more virulent. And usually, when a mutation happens, some virus will get more infectious but less virulent. Hopefully, we can get over this mutant soon. Either that they are not that virulent or that our vaccine can still kill it. Not kill it, can still prevent that new mutant. The fourth one is vaccine design. According to the theory, it's not a big deal to design a new vaccine, but for real world, it's not easy. It takes years to make one successful vaccine. And to fight against this coronavirus, it takes much shorter time. It's about a year to make a new vaccine. That's the shortest time ever happened. But for this mRNA vaccine, it's revolutionary because even if the mutant is out of its target, and they can adjust and make a new vaccine within a short time. In several days, they can produce a new vaccine against a new mutant. So that's good. And also, we should take care of the reservoir host and insect host. We should pay attention to those reservoirs because they can spread the virus out. And also, a lot of rumors about vaccines. And probably you heard some of them. They say that the vaccines are not good for the baby, for the child. And if the child get the vaccine, they will develop autism, or that they will develop infertility. So they cannot have babies, or other rumors. So we are professionals. We are student teachers from medical school. We should have the knowledge that these are not true. These are just rumors. When in the future, when you are a doctor, you should persuade your patient to give their child any possible vaccine so that you can protect them from infection. The next one is unsatisfactory vaccines. Now, even though we have vaccines, some vaccines are not working well, and they can provide just poor protection, and that can cause some problem. Okay, so that's all for this topic.